So when you're hunting mushrooms, it's always possible to score. And we've scored here. We've got a variety of species of mushrooms in bloom all over this, or should I say fruiting, all over the base of this glacial erratic rock. What a dramatic location to find them. The rock is surrounded by beech trees. There's a big sugar maple right here. More beeches and hemlocks. We would call this mixed hardwood. And I'm talking about a lot of mushrooms. In fact, all over my feet are a mixture of Entalomas. These are Entalomas right here. I'm pretty sure I got to do a little bit of a spore print on them, but I'm pretty sure that's what I'm looking at. And then, look at, I've even got ground nuts growing here. And then over here, I've got our friends shrimp of the woods, which are known as aborting Entalomas, right there. And let me harvest one of them. As I like to say, these are pretty disgusting because they're an Entaloma mushroom that aborted. It didn't grow properly. They call them shrimp of the woods because they taste like shrimp. And they're really good. There's another one. But right next to it is a honey mushroom, or a group of honey mushrooms. And look at the Entalomas, aborting Entalomas, and honeys, and even ringed honeys growing all along the base of this glacial erratic. As I carefully remove the leaf matter, I find myself a bunch of aborting Entaloma, which I'm just popping off, leaving the smaller ones. Here's a bigger one. I'm harvesting it. You might as well get the dirt off it now if you can. Now, I don't have my typical mushroom bag. I've got just a plastic bag, and I'm not a fan of harvesting mushrooms in a bag that doesn't have the ability for spores to get out. But I'm going to have to do it. Look at this beautiful cornucopia of mushrooms. So as I'm harvesting these mushrooms, I got to tell you, I'm really not going for the honeys today. I'm avoiding picking the honeys. And I'm avoiding the honeys because I might like to have a glass of wine with my mushrooms. And if I do, a piece of the honey. Now, you'll notice when I harvest one of these Entalomas, right? So here's Entaloma. They tend to have a very brittle cap. Notice that cap just broke right off. So I'm going to put that in. I don't really want to harvest the skin, the stipe or the stem. I'm just going for the cap. So the danger then is, as I break off the cap, okay, what happens if I'm also harvesting honeys and I pop a couple of honeys in there and the cap breaks off? The cap can also break off. Now, they don't look exactly alike, obviously, but while I'm preparing them, I could make a mistake. And honey mushrooms, when you consume alcohol, create coprine, which is a poison. It's something that judges will prescribe alcoholics. They have to take coprine tablets if they've been nailed drinking and driving a few times. And you don't want to eat some of these and have a beer. Within 24 hours of eating these, you can get really sick. So my thought today is I'm not going to harvest the honeys. Or if I do, I'm going to really separate them out. Instead, I'm going for the Entalomas and the aborted Entalomas, the shrimp of the woods. Here's shrimp of the woods right there. Popping them up. It's really a mushroom wonderland here. I got ringed honey mushrooms growing on this standing dead beech, growing everywhere, poking out at me. And then down on the base, I've got the aborted Entaloma. And remember, the aborted Entaloma was going to be these guys. And something happens, and maybe it's a fungal infection, a fungus infecting a fungus, but the mushroom turns into this glob. There's another Oh, see, you can actually look and see the little mushroom inside this mass of goo. They would have turned into these guys. I'll grab a couple of them, the tops, leaving the stem behind. I'm not going to grab all of them. Look at what I brought home. And you're going to see pictures on the mushroom sites of guys with pickup trucks, and the F-150 tailgate is loaded with chanterelles or loaded with, and I mean, I gotta say, I'm gonna have to go home and I'm gonna have to prepare these, for storage. I really don't think it's a good idea to over harvest, because then I'm gonna waste. If I don't get to these things in a day, they're not gonna be what I want. So leave some. It's going to be good for the ecosystem here. The spores are going to spread. I found the spot that I'm at 3 years ago, and I've been stopping here every year, and I got myself my own little mushroom wonderland. And you'll have one too. Look at the mix of honeys and entalomas on the ground here. Really cool. And they're hiding underneath the glacial erratic. And so what happens with guys is they bring home all the fish, and then it takes some years, and they all of a sudden realize I'm giving fish to my neighbors, and they're probably throwing them away, or, I got myself 3 deer in Connecticut, and the meat's in the freezer, and everybody in my family's sick of venison, and you just got to get to a point where you harvest intelligently and with conservation in mind. So I could go around with a vacuum cleaner and get every mushroom in this area, and there's a bunch, but I'm going to be reasonable and leave some for you if you can find my spot. The area that I'm in is like a ridiculous mushroom wonderland. There's a chicken of the woods that's gone by. Look at this beech log, big beech log, covered with honeys. Now let's take a walk up here by the huckleberries. See the huckleberries, little red berries in here? I'll walk up here, and I gotta watch out I don't step on these guys. There's so many. Entalomas and honeys. And here's some aborted entalomas under the root here. Pop them out. These are gonna be tasty. Oh, those are small. Got enough entalomas already. Oh, there's another one. Another aborted entaloma right there, peeping out at me. Shrimp of the woods. And look at this. Huh? What are we talking about here? A treasure trove of aborted entalomas. Again, we don't know why they abort, but they are legitimately shrimp of the woods. Well, I got myself a bag of aborted and non-aborted entalomas. You can see the two different types of honey mushrooms pretty nicely here. Look at these little honeys, these fat little guys with the fat stems popping up, and then the traditional honeys that you think of right here, a little smaller, with the hair on the top. I'm not harvesting these today. I'm not going for these. But that's a pretty bunching right there. Look at them. Look at how they're they're very young. They're going to get big. These will get bigger than the ones that we're looking at. These honeys can get to be, wow, like that big. So I'm out harvesting mushrooms. I'm leaving a heck of a lot more than I'm bringing home, and I'm not unhappy doing that. I'm not worried somebody else is going to get them. I've learned over the many years that I've been hunting and fishing, harvest in a sustainable way. I'm not lecturing you. You'll figure it out, I'm sure, or you already have. But this is great stuff. It's a bounty in the early fall. This stuff is out near your house. If I get this video out quick enough, it'll hopefully give you a heads up so you can get out and find your own honeys and entalomas and aborted entalomas. But make sure you do a good ID when you consume mushrooms. You really need to. And that might even mean doing a spore print. Before I end the video, it's interesting to think about why mushrooms fruit when they fruit. The area that I'm in southern New England has not had any significant rain in almost a month. And yet there's mushrooms everywhere here. I am close to a beaver swamp and an associated stream network. This is mixed hardwoods and quite a bit of a hemlock bog. We're high in the Berks here. We're about 1,700 feet above sea level. And it's really cool. It's cool getting out and walking around and investigating your region and developing an intimate relationship with the forest. You might not be a hunter or a fisherman, but mushrooming will get you out there for a purpose, not just walking around. Nothing the matter with walking around, but it's cool to do it with a purpose. So look at that. I gotta tell you, if you just like natural beauty, I mean, think about it. Funguses. They're not a plant. They're not an animal. They're in the middle. I think I've had some in my classroom over the years.